I joined Alliance because as a CEO, it is a pretty lonely place. And there really aren't a lot of people that really understand what you're going through. And there's really nobody you can talk to in the company. There really isn't. So I was really looking for a group or a forum for me to share and get counsel, and me to share experiences and get advice. And I came across the Alliance. And I really wanted to use that Alliance for that purpose. So my first experience, I was in a group, and it was great, but I wasn't getting kind of what I wanted out of it. But, and so I talked to several people within the Alliance, and I got put into another group. And that's the group I'm in today, and I am so glad I joined the Alliance for those reasons. I get advice on things professionally as well as personally. The group itself has a great balance between understanding, you know, who we are as people, and we connect at the personal level. And then that makes the professional advice so much more meaningful. And so we get a little bit of that every time we get together. And many of us get together even outside of the Alliance, which is really what the Alliance is really about. People I've met at the Alliance, it's probably true across all of these different facets. The first one is there's complete confidentiality in the group that we are in. Anything that we talk about in the forum or shared with members outside of the forum stays within kind of that silence. You know, whatever we share, whatever we give advice about, nobody really talks about that again. So that's really a really important, kind of comfortable and comforting culture of the Alliance. Second is, I think commitment is very important. And in the group I belong to, everybody has made a personal commitment to the group to be there for each other, you know, monthly or whenever somebody calls. So I think a personal commitment is really, really important, and really important to make these things work, you know. And I would say the final piece is everybody is so willing to share, even the uglies, about their personal life, their professional life, and they are open to getting the feedback. The feedback sometimes could be brutal, because when honesty comes, you know, sometimes those are not the things you want to hear, you just want support. But getting the honest feedback, because, you know, we see each other objectively, but getting that honest feedback is really important, and that's how we all grow. There's quite a bit of diversity in the Alliance group. It ranges from, you know, different industries, right? Different backgrounds, like somebody could be an engineering background versus somebody could be in a service industry. So there's quite a bit of diversity, and there's also diversity of age. All those are different diverse backgrounds, and sometimes I think that the diversity really helps us get different perspectives. Particularly in these Alliance groups where we talk about different issues. But the diversity also doesn't get in the way of us understanding each other. You know, I would find, I thought that when I first joined the group and somebody was in the oil business, there's no way I could add value to that person's business. But, you know, the business issues are usually pretty similar. You know, so the issues aren't that different. The industries may be different, but the diversity of thought also comes in play, which is a real positive because they're seeing things differently. Our Alliance Director, you know, plays a couple of roles. One is really trying to drive and foster some sort of really honest interaction across the group, and more than an interaction not just within the group but also outside. So our Alliance Director does a really good job in terms of fostering that connection that is pretty honest and pretty natural. And one thing that we find with our group is we have a tendency to talk. We just go on and on and on and on without really noticing the time. So one of her really great roles is how to facilitate us so that we can get as much out of it as possible, and everybody gets something out of it, and not just one person. So that's a really key part of the role. And I think the final piece is, because our group is so balanced between the personal and the professional piece of getting to know each other, we set goals in the beginning of the year in terms of what we want to accomplish professionally and personally. And she facilitates that and making sure that we actually try to reach our goals and we talk about them. Most of the Alliance group have quite a bit of entrepreneurial background. So I think some of my corporate background has been helpful, that have contributed to the group. A lot of them are serial, entrepreneurs. They've been entrepreneurs a lot. Or they have run very successful businesses that are very mid-sized, but not a lot of them have had, in my group that is, have a corporate background. So that has been very helpful, and it brings some diversity of experience. I also have a business that's more consumer packaged goods, which complemented the other businesses that we have in that group as well. And having another woman, I would say, in the group has been helpful. Because we have a few women, but it's not that high percentage. So that always brings some sort of diversity of thought and diversity of just humor into the group. Most of the feedback I get from the Alliance group, the one instrumental piece that's been really helpful is you always want the group to tell you, you kind of know in your gut feel what you want to go do. And running it by a group of very smart people and getting some feedback on is that the right direction, I found it to be extremely helpful, just so to confirm your judgment on certain things. I would say I did get some pretty candid feedback when I was the Focus executive for the session. And there were a few members that told me, you know what, you've got a great skill, you got talent. You've got to believe in it, was one of the feedback. And you may not have money, but you've got the magic that can turn the money into more money. So you got to believe that there's value that you bring. And I also remember somebody else saying that you need to get better in terms of working on the financial part of the business. And I just never thought about myself not being good in the financial part, but it was good to get another perspective on it. And I think it's just things you get from people observing and listening to you, that you realize that there's really just another objective and there's just another perspective out there that's very different from yours, and it's really always good to get that. I like the Alliance community because in my group there aren't a lot of CEOs with my background or with my consumer packaged goods industry. So what I then tend to do is I tend to want to connect with those CEOs that are running similar businesses to mine. And you get a very different perspective. So like today, I just gave a call to somebody from the Alliance that I knew from one of the dinners, and we talked about, just business challenges that we share and how we go and approach it differently. So that was very helpful. And we talk about this and we go to lunch separately outside the Alliance dinners, but that's where I connect and network with others that have a similar industry to mine and have a similar business model to mine.